Hello everyone. This is the uncle you never want to miss, Uncle C, and I'm here with
Tosin Olorinleke. Good evening, everybody. How you doing? I heard you guys say you're fine.
How you did, Tosin? How has your week been?
Good. I actually enjoyed this week, really. Last week, I told you about how it was stressful but productive. This week, I've felt more of being productive and less of being stressful. So, yeah, it's been quite an exciting week as well. Learned a couple things, discovered a couple things. So, yeah, just interesting. Started something I had never done before and completed the first part of it. So, that was interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just awesome. So myself, this week at work had been kind of interesting. I'm getting to understand what my superpower really is, and I think what every employer expects from an employee. Everybody expects to see you deliver on their jobs, tasks, and assignments with a smile on your face. And it can be quite difficult, but it could be just the only thing that makes a difference. And it could be the leverage you have over your colleagues. The fact that all of you have been put through a particular form of stress or in an environment that might not be so enabling, but because you carry that smile on your face, doesn't matter if you're the joker,
Are you asking us to suffer and smile, though?
Probably. It's something I'm contemplating in my mind. So in addition to that, yesterday I was on radio, Nigerian Info Port Harcourt. Thanks to everybody who found time to actually listen, and we spoke about an incredible topic, time, and it was really enlightening even for myself, especially understanding the fact that time as a concept has really not had a single definition, and the fact that everybody seems to have something to say. Some say it is real, some say it's not a real quantity. But I think the definition I love the most was the one given by St. Augustine of Hippo, when he said that time is a distension of the mind through which we try to simultaneously grasp the past in memories, the present in attention, and the future in expectations. I think that was a very good summation for me.
Interesting. I also thought you did brilliantly on the show yesterday.
Thank you.
I listened, although I had a bit of issues. So I was listening from a streaming website actually, and that kept going on and off. But I caught a good part of it. I also caught the part of, the questions and answer session. And, well, let's just say I thought some of the questions were interesting and funny. I've kind of found out that it seems Nigerians enjoy being stuck on the problem. I'm trying to be careful as I say that, because I don't want to say that from a place of privilege. Being that, some people could really have it rough and you are just not able to relate with their struggle. Therefore, you just think, I'll just come out and say, there are problems, but move on from your problems and face solutions. It might be harder than that. I would still recommend that you look at solutions instead of problems. But, it was something I observed yesterday, just an observation.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's why I tend to want to ask you this question. If you find out that you have a gap in your life, say in anything, maybe emotional, spiritual, career-wise, how much do you think you can pay to have a coach you out of that problem? Because I know in Nigeria, personal development is really not yet a very big and trending topic. A lot of people are already speaking to that, but it's not raging as you have in the United States, where you're having an outburst of coaches, motivational speakers and teachers and programs, mobile open courses, and little short direct courses and the rest. So
once again, I think that's similar to what I just said about speaking from a place of privilege. The man who has not been able to even eat completely today, can't afford 3 square meals a day, is not going to be thinking about a coach to make his life better. People are probably struggling to, meet their basic needs. We can argue that, self-development is very important, but people have not even been able to help themselves to the point of understanding the importance of self-development. So I think there are just barriers we need to overcome at different levels, and people are still struggling with the first level.
Abraham Maslow's pyramid.
Exactly.
So we are still struggling with physiological needs.
It's like you even compare Nigeria to other countries. You can imagine that as at 2019, even till 2020 now, we are still struggling with the headers, Fulani headsmen issue. This should not be a problem. Other countries are thinking about moving people to space, and we are thinking about where to settle our livestock.
On that, with that regards, are you saying that it's not a thing of joy, the publication that came out earlier this morning, that the federal government had discovered new oil reserves in the northeast up to 1 billion barrels of oil?
So it could be a blessing, but like we've experienced with Nigeria, it could also be a big curse, because I mean, how is it going to be used? How are the resources gained from that going to be managed? What use or what advantage is it going to be to you and I? What is the common man going to gain from those discoveries? What does the common man even stand to lose from those discoveries? Communities probably around those areas might probably be dispersed without adequate compensation. So, I mean, we found out that in Nigeria, things that should be a blessing to us, things that should be a blessing to the population, somehow find a way of becoming, a curse. And until we actually have people, who can make the right decisions, and I also try to be careful when I say until we have people who can make the right decisions, because that is a way of pushing responsibility to someone else. Yeah. But I'm a strong believer in taking responsibility yourself and doing as much as you can do. But then I think if we're going to be realistic, there is only so much you can do, and people who have been entrusted, I use the word entrusted loosely, because I don't know if our leaders were particularly entrusted or they entrusted themselves, but I don't know if you understand what I mean. People who have been placed in a position of power, given certain responsibilities, should be accountable to a certain level, and we ought to see that. We ought to see them,
Well, enough talking about the government and all before this becomes a rant about where we want Nigeria to be.
Are you scared of DSS?
I actually heard that a very vocal speaker on Twitter actually went on exile.
Interesting.
Yeah, Aisha Yesufu. I haven't confirmed that, but I heard she's on exile now, that she's being sought after. Interesting times. But hey, let's not forget, tomorrow is Valentine. It's the season of love, people. I hope you're in love or someone is in love with you. And if you have nobody, remember all you need is Jesus.
Jesus will send Valentine package to your house.
Oh, you'll be very surprised. You'll be really, really surprised. I have a friend who actually said she once prayed to God for a letter, and she actually got a letter from God, physical letter. Probably on another time we'll discuss around that.
We have
it's
to
kind
discuss
of interesting.
We have to discuss it. So can you smell love in the air? Do you smell it?
I only smell
or
a lot
you smell
of
suits.
and a lot of jokes. Have you seen those songs that have been coming out?
Not really.
There's this one that I really like. He said, about a month ago, I liked your pictures.
Thanks to your status.
About a month ago, I came to your DM and you ignored. Valentine is coming. Where's your boyfriend? You are sitting at home. Lonely. Then the Kabasa boys did their own version.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool version where they mixed a bit of what's this guy's name with Lonely? I'm so lonely. Akon.
Oh yeah.
Those guys are really, really smart people. But then they have been. I feel Valentine's an industry right now, and towards this period, people have stuff to sell. Hotels will suddenly have couples packages, and people are not really seeing that there's a monetary side to this. And those who see benefit from the season.
Yep. So, do you believe in the Valentine season? What do you think of it generally?
It's a market.
Is that all it is to you?
It's a big industry right now.
So, Chika,
really?
I thought you were romantic.
It's a big industry right now. So, think about it. This is the period when the churches put a lot of pressure on their teenagers not to commit fornication and get pregnant.
Yeah.
So, there'll be all sorts of church programs tomorrow. And then
the godly way to
the
love.
godly, exactly. And then the ungodly ones, in quotes, would also have all the programs. So, I think it's an industry. It's just like Christmas. There'll be specialized products, types of dresses that will be sold this period. And people, if you happen to find yourself captured in periods like this without necessarily exerting yourself to actually partake of the goodies in that period, except for probably the goods you get from other people, then I think you can do better. I think I can do better.
I don't have much to say to that. In fact, I have nothing. It's not a matter of much. I actually have nothing to say to that. Valentine's. Speaking about love, I found out that, okay, you already mentioned fornication and all that. A lot of babies are made during the Valentine's season.
Yeah.
On Valentine's Day, to be precise, a lot of babies are made. And while a lot of love is being shown on that day, I usually wonder, these people who make babies, do they really have the love to give? You know, when the pregnancy kicks in, when the baby is finally delivered, is that love still going to be that level? Pregnancy can be a tough time for couples.
Yes.
And I dare say it's probably a time when love is tested as well. I guess your patience as a partner is tested, both for the father and the expectant mother, because you are going to you're going to be on the end of a lot. You probably have to do a lot of things you never did before.
Yeah.
You'd probably also have to deal with certain outbursts.
Yes.
Due to hormones and other things. She would also have to deal with situations where she might see you as being inconsiderate, you know, and
insensitive.
all that. I mean, it's just, love is tested, really. So what do you have to... You're an expectant father, aren't
Yes,
you?
I am. Even though my wife says I should stop talking about it on air.
Village people.
No, she's not. She's not
We
village
cover
people.
this podcast to the blood of Jesus.
And honestly, you know, it's during this pregnancy period that I began to take some time to really reflect. You know, first, have you ever stood to wonder that when you look at the statistics of single mothers, maybe in America where they have such statistics, you realize that when you listen to stories of children grown by single women, that there seems to be a particular period of time when they will tell you, my dad left. What period do you imagine? I know you might not have raw data now, but based on your experience listening to such stories, what period do you think that usually seems to take place?
During the pregnancy phase.
Pregnancy.
Or as soon as the baby
As soon
is
as
born.
baby is born.
Yeah.
Pregnancy or as soon as baby is born. Because it's a period when, just as you said, there's a lot of testing. It's a transitory period. And not many people are able to actually withstand it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting how the world is made up of seasons, and that tends to also determine our survival based on how we react to those seasons. So, for instance, it's dry now, you realize that your lips crack, so you need to go put on your lip balm. But during the rainy season, you know that you have to consider buying an umbrella. So imagine someone who does not buy an umbrella for rainy season. How would his well-being be? Imagine someone who does not have a lip balm during dry season. So what I'm simply saying is, there seems to be in life this dynamism, things consistently changing, and we're expected to change in accordance to that. And pregnancy is one of such specific time. I came to be, I in my reflections, I'd been asking myself, really, what kind of support systems do we have? Thank God we're in Nigeria, where it seems like we have an extended family. But now I'm saying the more we become more westernized and splinter along the lines of family, where people are flying to Canada, or you are living in different places where your people can't reach you, or you face the kind of situation I face. My mom is late. My wife's mom is also late. What kind of support systems will these women have?
That's a very important question, because you find out that, okay, the immediate support system, which should be the husband, if you ask me, seems like the husband is just so unprepared. And I would say, you spoke about seasons, and I would say I think it comes from, mostly a lack of understanding of what the season really is.
And you know the funny thing? Now, my wife at a point thought it was just me, but from confirmation, speaking with other friends, you realize that during periods like this, when you have a knowledge gap, what's the best thing to do?
You learn.
You try to read a book.
You educate yourself.
Try to read. Try to educate yourself. Watch videos. Do you know, in some households, I'm gathering statistics on that, the women will almost most likely try to draw the husband close. Join me for antenatal. Take this book and read. Join me and watch videos. And what happens? The men run away. They shy away from it. They find one excuse or the other to move away, except for some exemplary few. So we are unprepared coming into the system, and then we remain unprepared because there's something that happens. Now, you take, for instance, in the workplace, part of the challenges my wife had to face was, or most pregnant women being pregnant is, I spoke about this in one of the earliest podcasts that we had, the fact that some men will just make some kind of general statements.
Yeah.
The woman reacts in a way that she's meant to react because of how you've acted, and then you tell hormones. You also spoke of the hormones. We are true. Medically, there are all sorts of hormones that are going on in the body, but does it necessarily mean that
all the time,
all of our reactions are just
based
reduced?
on hormones?
Do you understand me? And those kind of statements come when one is not necessarily as educated as he needs to be. Take, for instance, your opening speech during this podcast. You kept on trying to find a balance in your statements. You kept on trying to say things like, look, I am not trying to look down on people's struggle, people's hustle. And why you are able to make that kind of balance or look for that fine balance in what you're saying is because of the amount of knowledge you already have about the way things work in life. So when you see people who speak in absolute terms, most of the time, it tries to tell you that probably that person is not as exposed as he or she needs to be. And that's the reason why when our wives expect us to be a bit more sensitive, we are thinking they are overreacting. But really, how can they be overreacting? Do you know that in a normal adult woman who is not pregnant, her womb weighs about 2 pounds, that's about 1 point something kg. But before she's 7 months, that same womb begins to weigh almost 10 kg. That's what someone carries. So there are even times when I feel like I'm losing patience with my wife, and then something tells me, you think you are coming back from work, right? This woman has been working 24 hours. She can't sleep the way she used to sleep. Do you know that a pregnant woman can't sleep on her back? It's hurtful. Not to the child, to her. She could actually lose breath, have fainting spells. I've heard of friends who have had fainting spells in their pregnancies, or those who could not smell certain kind of food, and still we would want to say, oh, you are stressing me out.
We're the ones that are suffering.
We are the ones that are suffering, the pregnant dads. And by the way, we are trying to launch a line of products to actually see how we can build supportive systems for our women during their pregnancy periods. And more of this would come out as we work these products, right? You've been seeing some of the ideas.
I have, and it's a beautiful thing. I think it's something which is actually much needed, but like you said, I think it's something that will be modified as we start and move on with it, because a lot of these things take a lot of learning, and it's not something you learn in one day. It's not something you learn at a time. It takes experience to learn some of these things as well. You spoke about men refusing to learn, and I can't help...
Or finding difficult. Maybe if you use refuse, it
A lot of them refuse to learn. Let's call it what it is. I think some find it difficult. I agree with you. But I also think a lot refuse to learn.
Also a matter of priority. Yes.
And I think, for me, do you think it's rooted in the culture of, child raising
is a
woman's job?
Yes, I think so.
Woman, take care of your
take care of yourself. Yes.
So, considering it's so deeply ingrained, because I keep saying that I think the average Nigerian man, I just use average, but I basically think every Nigerian man, when I say Nigerian man, I'm talking about born and raised in Nigeria, is born with certain stereotypes that shouldn't be. So considering that some of these things are really deeply ingrained, some people are fortunate enough to start on learning these things while they are younger, making it easier. But some other people don't have that privilege till they are much older, and we know it's more difficult to unlearn things the older you are. So how do you think we can actually tackle that mentality? How do you think, because now it's obviously not a case of you being able to say, okay, take this book, read. They don't even want to open the book. So how do you tackle the mentality that says, I am just a father, I am just a provider, the person who should be taking care of my kids, the person who is responsible for anything child related is my wife. How do we tackle that mentality?
So for me, my change came by agreeing to read a book my wife bought. It's titled The Husband Coach Bet.
Okay.
By Dr. Bradley. He's late now. So first, he's a doctor who, as far back as 1940s, promoted natural birth as against CS or as against medicated birth, because they said back then pregnant women during their delivery were overdrugged to the extent that some of them had to get chained to the bed and worn helmets, because in their drug-induced state they could move around and actually hit their heads on the wall and all sorts of injuries. So the moment a woman goes for delivery, it's almost like, man, it's the end of the world, and it takes a long time for them to recover emotionally, physiologically, and psychologically. So this man grew up on the farm and began asking himself, why is it that farm animals can deliver on their own with no support, no help, no doctor? And decided to take some of those learnings into the medical field, and he did absolutely well. Guys, you can check it out, Bradley Method. Learn as much as you could. So reading it, one of the things he promoted in his Bradley Method was that husbands should be at the births of their children.
Okay.
It was something I fought my wife against. The first time my wife suggested it, I was like, are you mad? Are you crazy? What kind of stuff is that? Why should I be there? And do you know, partially was because most of the Nollywood movies are there always watched. The man was always in the corridor pacing. And then when I got to work, most of the men will tell me I was away at field though. Some will say I was drinking with my friends. Then they called me. Well, we can call that irresponsible, but I didn't know that those things formed a bias. It had to take for my father. I called my father and was like, Daddy, see what my wife is saying. And you know what he told me? He said, you have a wife who tells you what she wants. You are blessed. If she had asked for this thing purposely or specifically, then do it. Would you have preferred if she just held it in her mind and treated you as such that you are not sensitive? So it was after having that conversation from a matured man, right, to a man that is growing, that listen, your wife tells you something, try as much as possible, no matter how difficult it is, to fulfill those wishes. I began to notice a change. I picked up that book because my wife brought that book for me a long time ago. I refused to read it. I was like, what it concern me? In Africa, the man is in charge and the woman should take care of the children. Yeah, as exposed as I thought I was. And I began reading the book and understood that the position of a man, especially in childbirth, is much deeper than just providing semen or paying for the hospital bills. The woman wants to feel like you are also contributing. And at times, it's not that you're doing anything more than being present.
Yeah.
My wife would always tell me, be present. Stop pressing your phone. Be present. It's nothing more than just being present. Just being there to rub her back, to rub her feet. When my colleague in the office, Sophie, was trying to explain that to me, just be there to rub her back is nothing too difficult. I didn't understand it then, but now I see that that's exactly what it is, because you are, by doing such acts, by making such gestures, you are letting her know that I am with you in this. And it creates a stronger bond in the family. Because I believe that a lot of people from deliveries lose out in their relationships and in their marriages. The women just are like, these people don't care, this man does not care about me. But that can change. And that's exactly why we're having this podcast, to build support systems for our wives.
I think it's interesting. So a question I wanted to ask you, because I think that's something common we would probably see in Nigeria. So when your wife asked that you should be present during the birth of your child, if you were to give me reasons for your refusal, what would they be?
I told you now, Nollywood was the first one. Most Nollywood movies I saw, the man was never inside.
So you wanted to just piss, basically.
Exactly. It wasn't like there was any serious reason for taking that decision. I just felt like, all right, so part of what I used to tell her was, why am I paying a doctor? Why exactly do I have a doctor at your bed that you also want me there?
Yeah.
But thinking about it now, none of those excuses were substantial in any way. It was just me trying to be a big head.
So I think that's very interesting, and I think for men generally, because we are not taught a lot of things even from when we are young. We haven't seen our fathers do it. We haven't, even our mothers, who you think should know better and tell us that, okay, your father did this and I didn't like it. I won't want your wife to go through the same thing.
Yeah.
You'd expect that,
we'll get better.
Yeah,
and the truth is, it's actually getting a bit worse. You know why? Because probably maybe some generations back, men could, and the women as well, could just justify some of these attitudes on, well, the man provides money, he goes to work. But these days where you are most likely going to marry a woman who is also working.
Mm-hmm. So what's
the justification? What now makes you a man, really? And that's why it becomes more difficult. That's why we keep hearing about the rising rates of postpartum depression. For me, I'm testing that out. I'm not yet sure. That's part of the reason why we are launching the product under the brand name of DM&B. And what I actually feel is that when the woman does not feel well taken care of during the process of a pregnancy, after going through what she has to go through, the pressure of delivery, it affects her mind, because she looks around and says, am I left alone and isolated in this world? Isolation is one of the greatest killers of anything. Being a boy that trained chicken when I was young, I realized that most of those chicks would only die when the mother refuses to keep them under her warmth. It's not hunger. The moment they can't find a space under her for them to be warm enough, the next morning you arrive there and then you see a mortified corpse.
That's interesting. I guess it's, as they say, a problem shared is a problem half solved.
Yes.
And I guess a wife also thinks, I came into this marriage with the expectation that, we would tackle everything
issues
together. So why would
am I
you
being left alone?
leave me? And I think that's a lesson. So the lesson is, I'm not married, but I think it's something I can pick up.
Yes,
that,
please.
In a marriage, nothing is meant for a single person. It's always a team effort to tackle every single thing.
Yes, and don't justify and say, but I bring the money. It might not necessarily be the most important thing. Let's learn to give people the help they need and not the help that we think they need.
Yeah.
Because that's something a lot of us also do. I'm working so hard for you. I'm giving you everything. Yeah, that's what you think I need.
Yeah,
it's not what I need. I've been asking you. My wife at times says that, I've been asking you. I've been saying this every time. And you just choose not to hear me.
Interestingly, I think this even goes past the relationship between the husband and the wife, and sometimes even to the relationship between the father and the children after they are eventually born. So I know a lot of Nigerians. I have a lot of friends who don't really have a strong connection with their fathers. And why is that? It's because all the while the father was all about work. I have to provide. He just pays the school fees. He pays the school fees and he believes he has done his duty. No extra efforts to, how are you doing? Who are you?
So it's just like a rigid exchange.
Yes. And if you think about it, just like you said, paying or providing financially is something almost anybody can do. Anybody with the means to can actually do that. However, few people are able to actually play the role of a father.
Connect emotionally,
yes,
connect psychologically.
Providing that emotional and psychological support. And I think that is what the emphasis should really be on, just the emotional and psychological support that you can provide to your spouse, that you can provide to your children. Because at the end of the day, I think we have, formulated a society where we are so materialistic, and even when it's not, I know most times people want to use materialistic in the sense of all she cares about is money. It's always about someone caring so much about money. But even sometimes you who are doing the giving are entirely just materialistic, because you tend to assume that all you can give
is just that money.
Is money. All you can give is material things. So I think we need to shift from this mentality of thinking the only thing I can receive or the only thing I can offer is something material. So there was an experience I had once, actually. When I was in uni, I was walking past a homeless person, and I don't think I was in a very good mood that day. So he tried to say hello, and I didn't have change on me, quite honestly. But as soon as he said hello, that was what I quipped back, that, sorry mate, I don't have any change. And he said something that really touched me that day. He said he was just saying hello. So he just wanted
Hey, hi, a response.
a response. He just wanted to be treated like a human being.
Yeah.
But I had just seen him as, something on the sidewalk that would request change. And so I had sort of generated an automated response. And after that day, I actually tried to take my time to have conversations with some
strange
of these
people.
Yes. And I found out that it actually meant a lot more to them than,
that change.
the change. Because really, how much or how far would the change take them? But these are people that society almost doesn't see as human beings anymore. And you spend your time having when last do you think they had a meaningful conversation? So the point is, if even strangers, if your time, if your effort, if your care and your concern can mean so much to strangers, how much more to people that
Your loved ones.
To your loved ones, to people that actually expect this thing from you. You don't owe a stranger your time. You don't owe a stranger a conversation. But I dare say you do owe your partner, you do owe your children, you owe them your time.
Yeah.
You do owe them your emotional and psychological support.
Commitment. Yeah.
So I'm saying we should never undervalue or underestimate what these things mean. Sometimes it's as much as even, a wife comes back, she wants to talk, and it's something men joke about a lot. Like,
yes.
That's also talk.
That's also talk.
Man, I just want to rest.
A period to connect.
Yes. She could literally have that conversation with anybody.
Or keep quiet.
Exactly. But she chose to have it with you. And then you decide to make fun of it, and then she goes quiet maybe after she realizes that you have no interest in it. And at some point you start wondering where the disconnect is coming from. Of course, what time do you guys spend bonding? What time do you guys spend having conversations? You find out that a lot of friends or a lot of friendships are built not necessarily on the foundation of even very meaningful conversations. Sometimes it's just
exchange.
Yeah, exchange.
You give me your assignment note, and I sometimes take you to a book.
Yes. And then it is after that foundation has been laid with the seemingly mundane that you start being able to connect with the much deeper things.
And some never connect. So that's why the moment they graduate from school, you don't hear anything. Or you even move to the next set. Like, it happens to a lot of people in year one. So you might see people in different faculties being friends.
Yeah. Because
they were doing the same courses. And the moment they move on to their second and third years, it's all over.
It's over.
So guys, tomorrow is a period of love, and I really, our earnest wish from the Obani show crew here is that we all try to connect with each other more deeper. Let's not make jokes of where you hear things like, oh, because you bought me food, you think you would have knacks. Those things are quite irritating, really, coming from us. And we are not going to say any more than that. So on this particular note,
I would just say, show love to someone today. And remember, showing love doesn't have to be materially. Spend some time with that person you love, those people you love. Let them know you care, not just materially, but connect. I guess that's the word that's key today. Just connect. Yeah. Let your presence be felt.
Yeah.
Let them know you're there.
And let's remember the stories that you're making out of your experiences. Don't forget to share them, because when we don't share our stories, other people will, and they would never do it as well as
never ever.
Have fun.
Thank you for listening tonight, guys. Hope you have a wonderful weekend whenever you get to listen to this. Please don't forget to make your comments. Let us know what you liked about the show. Feel free to call or email the numbers on the channel. And more importantly, please follow the channel. We noticed that, you guys listen, but not a lot are following. It means a lot to us. We want to know, how many of you are listening and want to engage with you.
And when you do follow, it makes it easier for you to know when there are new episodes. So you wouldn't necessarily need anyone to send it to you. You would receive a notification so you can connect.
Thank you very much for listening, guys.
Thank you. Have fun. Bye.